Hello, my friend. On today's episode, I'm talking with Ben Pickard, fellow Business of Unicorns coach, and he is sharing his tried and true system for lead follow-up. In fact, he presented this topic at a recent Unicorn Society retreat, and many of our Unicorn Society members are using the exact system he's going to share today to follow up with leads, and they're getting great results. So if you want to systemize your lead follow-up, this is a great episode for you. Keep on listening, my friend. Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business of Unicorns podcast. And today I'm super stoked to have the one and the only Ben Pickard. What's up, my friend?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on the podcast more often. What a treat for me and what a treat for all of our listeners to have your Canadian genius on the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Well, let's dive in. We're always trying to figure out, what's the best topics we can cover on this podcast. And one of the things that we both really agreed wholeheartedly on is that there are a lot of essential business systems that people are missing in their business. We want to talk about the number one kind of basic system we think many of you are missing. And that's what we're going to get to in today's conversation. But before we do, we want to just do a quick little shout out because we're right in the middle right now of enrollment for our Unicorn Society group. And that enrollment ends July 2nd. Is that right, Ben?
July 2nd is the last day to register.
Yeah. So if you all have heard about Unicorn Society and have not applied yet, please do, and do it but before July 2nd if you want to join us this year, because we only will have one more enrollment at the end of the year. So there's really only twice a year you get to do this. And when they apply, Ben, what's the process they go through? They actually talk to you. So applying is not committing. Applying is actually just the first step. And tell them what happens after that.
Yeah, absolutely. When you apply, you're not committing to join. You don't give us money. You don't even give us a credit card number. Once you apply, we ask you to fill out a quick application that tells us a little bit more information about your business. That essentially just means we don't have to have as long of a call. It gives us a good feel if you're a good fit or not. And then from there, we move to what genuinely is a good fit conversation. Yes, it's technically a sales call, but as the listeners know, or if they don't, I've been a Unicorn Society member since day one. Well, day zero, actually. I said yes before it even existed. And so I know what it's like to be a member and make sure you're getting value out of something. And I also know what we do best and who we serve. So it's probably pretty close to 50-50 in terms of like, hey, I don't know if this is the right fit for you. So Step 1 is apply. Step 2 is fill out the application. Step 3 is a call with me where we can just get to know each other and see if we're the right fit to help. There's legitimately no pressure.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I think people get a little nervous to even reach out and learn more about a group like Unicorn Society, but we make it a pretty low pressure environment. And the first call is really, like Ben said, it's a discovery call to see if we're a good fit for each other. So go to businessofunicorns.com, click the link on on Unicorn Society and apply before July 2nd, or else you'll have to wait a half a year. So go talk to Ben. Let's get to today's topic. So as I mentioned before, we think, there's a lot of systems, a lot of basic systems we talk to gym owners and all the time about that they just don't have. And the number one system that I know that we agree that most people have to have and they just are missing is, drumroll, a lead follow-up system. People just don't have it. So Ben, just talk a little bit about why is it so important to have a system in your business to have consistent lead follow-up? It's kind of a no-brainer, but just spell it out for us.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that the absolute lowest common denominator, if you want your business to grow and you don't have a way of following up with people who are potentially interested in joining, you're going to have a really hard time growing.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'd also add too, knowing for a long time, myself included, the average gym owner runs their gym essentially through like somewhat organized chaos and elbow grease. That if you ever want to be able to pass that off or to not feel like you're working 100 hours a week or to just not have to make so many decisions in a given day, knowing, cool, this is what I do next. That's what I do after this. That's what I do after that. It takes the like stress and the energy and the challenge out of it. And it's just something it's just a play that you run. It's like as easy as making mac and cheese. It's just like, yeah, you just do this and wait for it to be done.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a great way of thinking about it. And I'll yes and that by offering a sports analogy, if you will. It's the reason why, and I know American football the best, so I'll use American football analogy. But I played football when I was a little kid, and my family's like a football family. That's why you learn all the plays in practice before the games. Right? Like I would go to practice multiple times per week to learn all the plays and learn what we're going to do when we get on the field. So when we get on the field, we can spend all of our energy and effort doing the damn thing. And so many gym owners are making it up as they go every day. And I did too at one point. And they expend all their energy figuring out what to do. So they have no energy left when it comes time to actually fucking doing it. And so I think it's a really great point you raised, Ben. Is like, if you want your gym to grow, you need to be following people who are interested. And if you're doing a little organized chaos, you're wasting all your energy on the wrong thing.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, yeah. The only other thing that I would add is that early on, when a lot of gym owners start, this is true for us at MFF, we didn't have to do that much marketing and sales because we're kind of growing organically, right? And so I think a lot of people build these nasty habits of not having good lead follow up because you kind of don't need to if you're popular in the first few years. You're the new kids on the block. People are flocking to you. There hasn't been a gym like you in the town before, so you can get away with it for a few years. But at some point, that spigot turns off. And it, in fact, my friends, does turn off for everyone. No one gets a free ride forever, right? And you have to get good at marketing to colder leads, which means you need a better lead follow-up process. So yeah, that's why it's important. So let's just talk about big picture stuff. So when it comes to building a lead follow-up process, Ben, what's the 5,000 foot view? How long do you need to be following up with leads? How often? When do you start calling someone a lead? Let's just start with the big picture stuff.
Yeah, we'll start with a super it depends loaded question. So I'm sure
Yeah.
there's other standards out there if you Google this to figure out, well, these people said it's slightly different. So
Yeah.
I'd argue this isn't about being right. It's about probably being a lot less wrong. So generally speaking, we think of a lead as somebody is a lead when they raised their hand and said, tell me more about what you offer, or what services do you have, or, you know, essentially they're saying, I'm potentially interested in giving you money. Can we discuss this further? There's lots of ways they might say that. They might say, what are your hours, and that type of stuff.
Yeah. And even to be I'll add more specific, that means they're probably opting into your website or DMing on social media, right? That's usually the trigger for someone to raise their hand. So yeah, I just want to
Yes.
add those details because that's the one way we hear it the most.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of ways for them to opt into communication. And then from there, it's our job to follow up with them a given number of times to make a decision. Is this someone who is probably worth pursuing, or is this someone who might be a tire kicker? So generally speaking, I suggest following up with your leads every day, possibly a couple times a day for the first couple days, and then for about 3 weeks after that, twice a week. So lead comes through twice in the first day, twice in the second day, once a day for the rest of the week, and then twice a week for the next 3 or so weeks. By that point, you'll probably know whether or not it's worth doing anything more. I know there's some information out there that's like every time they respond, you essentially start the frequency cycle over. But for our purposes, is if they haven't said anything in 4 weeks and you've got relatively well tested scripts, they're probably not interested.
Yeah. Well said. Let's just pause here for a second to help all of our listeners out there who are hyperventilating, as you just said that, right? There's a lot. We talk to people all the time. And the minute we say we need you to follow up twice a day with people for the first 2 days, then once a day for the rest of the week, then 2 or 3 times a week for 3 weeks after that, people freak the fuck out. They get immediately nervous that they're going to be bugging people, that they're going to be, we're trying to convince them to be like snake oil salesmen or like really like, intense sellers. And like, I just want to help all of you listeners by saying like, take a deep breath. We're not asking you to be jerks. We're not asking you to ruin people's lives. We're saying that if someone raised their hand and said, I want help from you, your job is to offer them some help. And sometimes the help we're offering them is helping them get out of their own damn way and respond to us. We're not the number one priority on our leads lists every day. And so we have to be persistent if we want to get their attention. So just talk a little bit about, how do we help people through that anxiety of like, oh my gosh, you're asking me to bug the shit out of people. What do you say to them?
Well, first of all, like, no, you're not. They've explicitly said, tell me more. It would actually be incredibly weird if you didn't tell them more. And as a kind of experience share for Mother's Day this year, which by the time this was posted a couple months ago, Katya really wanted family photos because we don't have any family photos.
Couches, Ben's wife.
Yes, my wife wanted family photos. So I'm like, holy fuck, I don't know anything about family photos. The iPhone doesn't work. Like, goodness. All right. So here I am completely out of my element, the same way your clients or future clients probably are. Like, I don't know the first fucking thing about photography. So I reach out to some people and be like, hey, does anyone recommend some good photographers? The same way a lead might be like, hey, can anyone recommend a gym that can help me? And I think I reached out to two different photographers, both of which did not get back to me before I got back. The third person I reached out to got back to me in the same day, and I think I gave them money the next day. So I just, as a customer, knowing sales, I guess I could have coached this first photographer through how to sell me services, but whatever. I reached out, no response for a couple of days. I'm like, fuck, maybe they're dead, maybe they're busy. I don't know. Reached out to someone else, no response. Reached out to the third person. Yeah, we do exactly that. Here's a couple different packages that could work for your needs. Let's set up a quick call. I'm like, fuck yeah, great, let's do it.
Yep.
So you're not bothering people. You're not bugging them. You're not going to get a restraining order sent to your house because you're following up with them. They want you to follow up and put yourself in their shoes. They're probably really busy with other stuff. If you're looking to get into shape, there's probably other things that aren't working perfectly in your life. Like everything isn't flowers and rainbows, except you've got 10 pounds to lose. There's probably some organization and maybe sleep is a little bit off, and maybe they're going through menopause, or they have all these fear and shame and guilt around how it's affecting the rest of their life. They need someone who from the get-go is like there for them and persistent. We're not saying, give me your credit card right now and I'll sign you up. We're saying, hey, Michael, thanks so much for your interest in our fitness programs. We actually deal with a lot of people just like you who have back pain and knee pain and are looking to lose a few pounds. Our next step is to set up a quick, no obligation phone call to see if we're the right fit to help you out. Like, no one's going to be mad about that.
No.
And if anything, you're making it easier for them to make a decision. Like,
Yeah.
they are the me who doesn't know how to hire a photographer. They don't know what to do with fitness. That's why they're reaching out. If they didn't need help, they wouldn't be calling you.
Yeah. Yeah. Really well said. And I think your example of hiring a photographer is a great one because in this day and age, people really value that kind of instant gratification. They value an instant solution, right? It's why everyone buys almost everything on Amazon. It's not they have the best quality products or even the best prices in many cases. It's because it comes fucking fast, right? Like it's, it'll get to my doorstep faster, right? And so there's something about that kind of like quick win of like, I'm going to be the first to respond. You're probably reaching out to 5 personal trainers or at least a few gyms in my area. Can I be the one that responds the fastest and helps you take your first steps the quickest? And I'll do it in a way that's persistent but kind. Like, yeah, you're going to win every time. Like, especially for those of you listeners who are in a really competitive market. This is part of how you stand out. This is part of how you capture those leads instead of other people capturing them first. Is you're responsive and you're fast. Yeah. So let's get into the weeds a little bit and talk about what are well, you mentioned this word already, but we're going to start off by laying the groundwork to say like you have to have a script for this. Right? Like, so just talk a little bit about the importance of having a pre-made script or playbook that people can follow, and then what should that playbook include?
Yeah, great question. I want to start by saying a script doesn't mean you're never allowed to deviate. You can think of a script as like a framework. This is generally what we say on message number 1. Obviously, there's going to be a bit of a conversation here. So we're not suggesting you turn into robots and everybody gets the exact same thing. It's because I know sometimes if you're like me and you came from, I got into fitness because I like fitness. I never thought I'd have to sell, yet here we are. Script isn't a bad thing. It's the same way, like you probably have a script in your head, whether you formalized it or not, around how do you coach a deadlift? What are the big rocks you address? What are the little rocks you address later? So the script is what do you say when? So when I created this document, when I presented this in Vegas, it was step 1 or day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. And it simply says, what do we do? Call, text, email, and then roughly what are the words that we say with a few fill in the blanks. Some of them can be calls. Sorry, go ahead.
I was like, can I give a quick context to what Ben is referencing? Is we had a Unicorn Society retreat recently in Las Vegas, and Ben presented on this topic and created a roadmap to actually give our Unicorn Society members another reason to join Unicorn Society. Of course, is you'll get the script Ben is talking about. But I think that's the idea here is that you want to create the script just like Ben mentioned. What do I do on day one? What do I do on day two? What do I do on day three? And then write out what you're going to do. So yeah, keep on going, Ben. I want to just give that context.
That's perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and it's not. It doesn't have to be this hard because I do a lot of Unicorn Society interviews, and the two things that come up on almost every single call are I want to grow my business, and I need to create. Number two here is I need to create systems.
Mm-hmm.
Growing your business is ongoing effort, but creating systems, there's no magic formula for this. A system at its core is when A happens, we do B, and then we do C. Like there's not magic software necessarily involved. There's not a skill set or something you don't know. A lot of it is just executing on it and making changes as you go. So I guess I could move to like, generally speaking, what should you say as you kind of go through this?
100%. Give us some examples of the kinds of things you're saying in day one, especially that first week when there was so much outreach. People get nervous about that. And I think what they'll be shocked about is how short and pithy our outreach is, because
Yeah.
that's the mistake we see them all make. So yeah, give us some examples.
So, for example, when a lead first comes through, so they've called you or texted you or DM'd you or filled out your website form, I'd recommend calling them as soon as possible, like ideally within 5 minutes, but realistically, same day is still probably good. And then leave a voicemail if they don't answer. And that voicemail can be something just like, I was actually reading it off my script. Hey, name. This is Ben from my studio. Thanks so much for your interest in our program. The next step's a quick, no obligation phone call to see if we're the right fit to help. How's later today at 4 p.m.? Smiley face.
That's it.
Super straightforward. And then I also like if you call, leave a voicemail, also send a text, and then I like following up with an email that says exactly the exact same thing, but it says, hey, name, I sent you a text, but wanted to email you as well in case that's better for you. Insert the exact same thing you said in your text. And that's the example of day one. It's not, we need to sign you up right away. It's not any of that salesy. That's literally like, hi, I'm shopping for pants. Do you have any size 32? And they're like, yeah, we have the size 32. They're over here. Why don't you come with me? Like, oh, great. That's exactly what I asked for. Thank you for solving my problem. You're giving them what they asked. Now, I know one of the obstacles I've talked to a lot of Unicorn Society members about is like, what do I say when I continue to follow up? And there is an element to like, yes, it can be a little bit awkward. There's only so many times you can say friendly follow up before it starts to get a little bit weird. So second day, like, hey, just want to send you a loving nudge so I can reserve your spot in our program. You free at A or B today for a quick chat. You're giving variations of kind of the same thing, but the mindset here is you're not trying to sell them anything with your follow-ups. All you're trying to do is get them to respond. So what you want to optimize for, to make this sound super fancy, with your follow-up is all you're trying to do is get a response out of them. You're not trying to make the leap to let's get married and join our 12-month program over the first text message. Just get them to respond. Another line stealing this.
I was going to say, one of the things your people may be recognizing is that you're always offering a time to chat in this kind of closed-ended question kind of way, right? I'm available at 8. Does that work for you? I'm available this time or this time. Which is better, right? That we're asking very simple, close-ended questions about when I'm available to help you with the next step. We haven't mentioned sales, pricing, goals. None of that happens early on in this first few outreaches. We're going to get there, but this first thing, as mentioned, is just getting to reply. So ask a simple question. How'd you hear of us? You live nearby, right? Like any of those kind of conversation starters gets them to respond. So yeah, keep on going.
Yeah, another good question. I think I'm stealing this from a Unicorn Society member, but on like day 4 or 5, if they haven't replied yet, just sending, hey, I just wanted to confirm, this is Sally, right?
Mm-hmm.
People will probably respond to that. Oh, okay, great. And then you can get into the conversation and be a real human being about it.
Yeah, I love that because it's true. If I follow up with 5 times with someone who asked me for help and they have not replied back yet, I'd be like, I just want to make sure, do I have the right person here? Like, are you the person who filled out this form on our website? Right. Sometimes they put a wrong number, right? And you might find out that they're not. But if anything, they'll feel compelled to respond like, oh yes, it is me. Sorry, I've just been busy. Can we do this next week? Right. And that's the kind of response we're looking for. Just tell us you're alive and you still want to have this conversation. Yeah. So how does the strategy change? So let's just say we've gotten in touch with them sometime let's just say this. Let's say we haven't gotten in touch with them in the first week and it moves to like softer, more long-term follow-ups. What do those start to sound like?
Yeah, so generally recommending like roughly twice a week over the next 3 weeks. So a
Hmm.
few days apart. Like I wouldn't do Monday, Tuesday, but maybe like Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, something to that degree. This is where I would start to then include a little bit more like social proof and testimonials. So,
Hmm.
for instance, one of them would be email that's like, "Hey, Sally, it's Ben from my gym. We specialize in helping people just like you who struggle with A and B and want to accomplish C and D. Wanted to share a recent client success story in case it resonates with you. When it's a good time to connect, you can book into my calendar here." So I'm assuming that they've started to get a little bit colder as a lead, so they might need a little bit more of a nudge. That's not just a human literally nudging them. But I would still continue with like the call, voicemail, text scripts. Like I'll acknowledge that I followed up a bunch of times. Like, "Hey, it's Ben from my gym. I know I followed up a few times. Where would you like to go from here? Are you still interested in discussing if we're the right fit? Um, are you still interested in your fitness goals?" I do think the one liner of no name, no subject, no anything, it just says, "Are you still interested in your fitness goals?" That'll sometimes get a response.
Yep.
Um, I have a friend who does sales and marketing for a relatively big company in town. And I've tried this periodically as like my last ditch effort where he'll be like, "Hey, I know I followed up a bunch of times. Which bucket do you fall into?" And it's like, already signed up at another gym, filled out the opt in by mistake,
Hmm.
interested, but I'm still super busy, really interested. Let's hop on a call. And
Yep.
I've tried that, and people actually respond with like option two. And then I
Yeah.
plan accordingly. So I'm acknowledging the fact that I've followed up with this person for possibly 4 weeks, 3 weeks, and they haven't said anything. So I'm trying to be like, honestly, just be a real human being about it in a
Yeah.
way that aligns with
I
your
love
values.
that. Yeah, I love that. I love that idea of just like, hey, I know I followed up a ton the last few weeks, not trying to bug you, but where are you at this point? Like, here's some I'm making this multiple choice for you. You don't need to respond with a full sentence. Just give me a number, right? And I think that's a great way to go. People are busy, and if you make it easy for them to respond, they might respond. And I love that, because I think so many people that we talk to, Ben and you and I do this all the time. They want a way to process their anxiety about this process, like they want a way to acknowledge that, like, I feel weird following up with you all these times and you're not getting back to me. And our answer to that is always, okay, well then say that. Right? Like it's okay to write that in the text. Hey, I know I followed up with you for the last week or two. Haven't heard back. I don't want to bug you. Would you like me to keep nudging you? Like I'm free at 8 o'clock. Is last chance. I'll start to leave you alone. Like just you can share that, right? Because that's what a real human would do, and we are real humans. We're not trying to be this this sales robot. And so yeah, well let's maybe make the leap here because I know we can keep talking about this process all day. But let's answer this final question. Is okay when we get in touch with them and we get them on a call, then what?
Yeah. Yeah. So I really do like the process of have a quick phone call with people or video
Mm-hmm.
call before coming in for a consultation.
Yeah.
Unless you have unlimited human power, you're not going to want to have 50 consults a week. Even if you had that many leads, you're just not going to be able to process that much demand or to fulfill that much demand. So when it gets onto that phone call, it's really have a conversation with them and make sure you're the one in control of that conversation. I've heard of
Mm-hmm.
stories where people like hop on the call and they're like, "Hey, I'm interested in your gym. Can you just tell me how much it costs?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's $300." Well, first of all, $300 for what? And what other services do you have? And you have no idea what that person actually wants. So I'll
Yeah.
normally start by actually saying how the call goes. "Hey, Michael, thanks so much for spending a quick call with me. We'll be roughly 10 or 15 minutes. At the end of this call, if we both feel like it's a good fit, I'll invite you in for a consultation. And if it's not, I'll try to send you to another gym that might be a better fit for you." To get started, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your fitness goals? And then they
Yeah.
talk for a little bit. And the whole time you're gathering information about, like, one, is this person actually a good fit and do you want to work with them? But two, what parts of your service are going to be the most valuable? Because you don't know whether or not you should actually sell them nutrition coaching, even if that's what they actually asked for, if they're not receptive to that. You
Yeah.
don't know if they're a good fit for your team training or boot camp style if you don't know anything about their injury history. So you're trying to collect information to then make an informed, "I think we can probably help. This is probably the price range you're going to be in. Why don't you come in so you can see the studio, get a feel for our service offerings? We can do a movement assessment, whatever your consultation process is." But over that call, you've built a lot of value. You're getting them excited about coming in, but not in the used car salesman of like, "Michael, if you don't get in today, we're going to sell the last car and then you can never buy it again and you're going to die miserable." Like,
Hmm.
that is not the approach here. It's getting information so you can help them solve the problem that they initially reached out to you for help with.
Yeah, beautifully said, my friend. I think that's so important. I think that the way you laid it out there is that you have to be, you have to be driving the conversation, letting them know up front, this is what is included in this conversation. Here's what we're going to do. It's going to be collecting information for you so I can see if we're a good fit. And if we are, I'm going to be inviting you in. And throughout that, you're going to be building value by being a listening ear, right? Part of the value you build is being the person in their life who's like, tell me about you. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to do? What's gotten in your way? What's made this hard for you in the past? Right. And just being the person who asks good questions and then listens, right, is a gift, right? Is already adding value to their life. And so, maybe we'll circle back. We'll maybe continue with this conversation in another podcast. But I think, because there's so much more to say about the consultation. I know I've covered that a little bit in some episodes with Emily Morris from Mark Fisher Fitness, but I think today the thing we really wanted to get across to listeners, you did so well already, Ben, which is like you need to have a process, a written down process for when you follow up with people, how often, and then what you say. And even if you just steal exactly what Ben told you today, that's a great first draft, right? Twice a day for 2 days,
Absolutely.
every day for the rest of the week, twice a week for the next few weeks. Use the script that he just actually shared with you, and start from there. What else? Anything else you want to say about having a consistent lead follow up process? I mean, what's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow here? Like, what's the promise of having something like this?
What's the promise? Ooh, what can I promise? I mean, I'd love to say your gym will grow because of it, but I don't know if I can. It should. Like, the probability is now far more in favor of it growing. It obviously is dependent on leads coming through.
Yeah, you'll definitely convert more, right? If you have a consistent process, you will convert better. So like that's a pretty easy promise to guarantee, especially
Yeah.
if
Yes.
your process now is chaos.
Yeah. Or you send them one email with your pricing and hope they give you a credit card. Like, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Yes, we can promise your conversion rate will go up. But the other promise is you'll feel like you're more in control of your business rather than hoping that leads are going to come through or people are going to sign up or someone's going to refer their entire workplace and it's going to be great. You're now the person who is driving the direction of your business. It'll give you the power to delegate it to other people. Like, maybe, depending on the stage your business is at, you might still want to be the person who's on the phone calls, but like, you could totally have somebody else send people texts, DMs, and emails with the script, and with a very small amount of decision making skill, they can easily put in your name or reflect some of their goals, and you'll be able to like be in that driver's seat, but also free up a lot more time to do more of what you want to do in the business. Because when you're
Yeah.
living in the reactivity of when they come through, I do something about it. That's fine. And like Michael said, probably works at the beginning when you're in more demand and maybe it's just you. But as you want to grow, now you can actually like pass these things off so you don't have to be the one managing every aspect of it.
Yeah. Well said, my friend. I think that's the promise of the system, right? Is that you get us more peace of mind, more freedom and flexibility by having a system that you can follow every day, and maybe start to delegate to other people. And again, you'll convert more. It just means more dollars in the pocket, really, at the end of the day, and helping more people who maybe weren't so easy to convert. Right, a lot of people who are challenging and have a lot of anxiety through this sales process, clients who haven't been going to a gym for a while for a reason, they'll convert better when you have a solid process to take them through, and you'll be able to help those people who might have bounced in past months and years. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But in my experience, they'll also more often than not thank you for the persistence.
Hmm.
Yes, one or two people have been like, you're following up a lot, but that's honestly like a fraction of a percent, probably three people
Yes.
ever in almost 10 years. But very frequently, it's like day 14, I followed up, what, 10 or 11 times at this point. And they're like, thank you so much for touching base. This other crazy thing happened in my life. I'd really love to connect. Can you call me Friday at 2? You will
Hmm.
get, people will be appreciating the fact that you're running a better business.
Yeah. Well said, my friend. Let's leave it there. This was a great one. I think so valuable for our listeners. And listeners, if there's any podcast you listened to on this podcast recently, if there's any episodes you've listened to recently, let this be the one that you go take action on immediately. Right? Let us be the one that you go right now. If you don't have this script or this process, you start to make it, because this is the one I think is huge. Most gyms we talk to are missing a really good system for this. It's not that complicated, but it does take discipline and persistence to execute on it. So go do it. It'll be a huge boon to your peace of mind and to your business. Thanks for this conversation, Ben. It was a really good one. And if you want to come work more with Ben Pickard, come join Unicorn Society. Apply. Go to businessofunicorns.com, click the button, and then you'll jump on a call with him, and he'll ask you about your goals, and we'll see if we're a good fit. Yeah.
I would,
Anything
I
you
would
want?
love, I would love to
Ben?
chat with more of you, even if we can't help you. I've had people
Mm-hmm.
who hopped on an interview call. I'm thinking of one, Jim in particular. We both decided it wasn't a great time for them. They have since been in touch with me via email every few months. I can't remember the exact amount, but their gym has measurably grown just from some of the stuff from the interview call. So if anything else, just capitalize on the fact that I'm giving away free 25-minute calls to help you out.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Well, thanks for the great call, my friend. Friends, if you found this valuable, please leave us a 5-star review everywhere that you listen, and email us, ben@businessofunicorns.com, michael@businessofunicorns.com. Let us know what he wants to talk about next on this podcast, or you can ask us questions about Unicorn Society. Thanks for a great chat, Ben. See you on the next one.
Thanks.